Are you a beginner when it comes to real estate investing? We're gonna be giving you the ultimate buyer's guide to real estate investing. Let's hop into the video. I put this guide together kind of based on my own experience and what I've been going through purchasing rental properties, and I want to share this with you guys to help you start building your real estate portfolio. So let's hop into this video. At number one, there are 4 major benefits to real estate investing. Number 1 is appreciation. Appreciation is how your home builds equity over time. And I'm gonna go through some numbers that I pulled from California and Hawaii because I'm from there, and I wanted to show you guys the difference and how much homes have appreciated over the years. Number 2 is cash flow. I love passive income. As some of you know that have been watching my channel, I've been purchasing some rental properties and I've been talking about that in our videos, and I've been starting to build up some passive income. And that to me is the key to creating some financial freedom and some wealth for you and your family. And of course, the ability to quit your 9 to 5 or whatever you're doing to be able to live and do whatever you want. And number 3 is depreciation. And when it's tax season, you're gonna love depreciation because it's gonna lower your taxable income, which helps you out in your overall financial picture. Number 4 is leverage. Leverage is such a key thing in real estate investing because when you find a property, you don't have to pay cash for the entire thing. You can finance it. You can put as little as 3–5% down if you're moving to the home, or if you're an investor, you're looking at 20 to 25% down. So you don't have to have a ton of money. You can leverage it, get some cash flow and appreciation, and all these benefits that can help you build your real estate portfolio. And last but not least, the overall tax benefits that you receive as a real estate investor. It's such a great way to be able to lower your taxable income and generate income for yourself and be able to, again, build wealth. That's the number 1 thing that we want to talk about today, is building wealth. Part number 2 is the 3 P's that I've come up with as I've been accumulating some of these rental properties. And the first P is planning. You have to plan, how are you gonna acquire these homes? Are you gonna flip property? Are you gonna be buying property to hold and rent? Are you gonna be purchasing, are you gonna invest in a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust? Are there commercial loans? Are you gonna be a hard money lender? There's so many different ways that you can invest your money. You just gotta figure out what is gonna be the best way for you to go about investing your money and the risk that you're willing to take on. Number 2 is persistence. You have to be able to keep looking at properties. The first one that you look at might not be the best. So it may take 2, 3, 5, 10 homes before maybe you purchase your first house or you flip your first house. So you can't get greedy and jump on the first deal because there's so many deals that are out there, but you just have to keep going at it because the more you look at homes, the more you look at whatever deals you're looking at, the more you get experience, you know what's a good deal from a bad deal. And it's gonna bring me to the last P, which is patience. So as much as you have to be persistent and look for deals, you also have to be patient because real estate is a long-term game. This isn't something that you're gonna get rich overnight. It's a long-term play, which I wanna talk about some appreciation and show you guys some numbers over the last 50 years of what home prices have grown to, so that way you can see what the possibilities are if you start buying property today. Now, when it comes to patience, I wanna talk about home appreciation because these numbers are staggering. Imagine, for all of you that are watching this video that live in California, you all know what housing prices are today. You guys are in the news all the time, and they always talk about how expensive it is to live in California. Imagine if you or your family, your grandparents may have bought real estate 50 years ago. Do you guys know what the median home price was back in the 1970s in California? Comment below. I'd love to hear what you guys think it is, but I'm gonna break down some numbers for you guys so you can see. Now, according to the LA Times, back in the 1970s in LA County, the median home price was $215,000. And if you lived in Orange County, the median home price was $234,000. And if you lived in San Diego, the median home price was $186,000. Those prices are amazing. Now let's fast forward to today. What are those prices today? LA County, $830,000. So they went from 200 to over 800,000. And you guys know housing prices and values aren't slowing down anytime soon. Orange County, $872,000. Again, you went from the 200s all the way to almost $900,000 today. San Diego County, $700,000. You guys can see how much real estate has grown over just the last 50 years. So imagine what's gonna happen in the next 50 years. If you guys have kids, this is something you might wanna think about. And this is why I become so passionate about real estate investing, because I think about my daughter and where home prices could potentially be in 30 years from now. What is it gonna take for someone to purchase a home, right? If the median home price in some of these counties are almost $1 million, that mortgage payment is $5,000, $6,000 a month. How much income do you need to make as an individual to qualify to even afford a $5,000 or $6,000 mortgage payment these days? It's insane to think about. And for all of you that are still back in Hawaii and you're thinking about moving, I looked up some stats. Back in Hawaii in the 1970s, the median home price was about $100,000. Fast forward to today, median home price, $978,000. So you're talking again, almost $1 million just for the median home price. It's insane. You would literally have to have probably a dual income household to be able to sustain a $5,000 or $6,000 mortgage payment. And that's just your mortgage payment. That's not even counting student loans, car payments, credit cards, and your cost of living. You're talking about probably a $10,000, $15,000 a month nut just to be able to live. That's why real estate is so important, because if you can buy a home today, think about 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, what is that thing worth? And the longest term that you can finance right now is 30 years. So in 30 years, the house will be paid off. You owe absolutely nothing, and it could be worth $1 million, or who knows where the prices will be at that time. Part number 3, what type of investing can you get into in real estate? I did mention some of this a little bit earlier, but you've got raw land, you've got single family homes, you got multi-units, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, you've got apartments, you've got real estate investment trusts or REITs, you've got private money where you can become a lender, you can lend money out to people that want to finance homes and utilize your money. I know investors that used to do this, and they were charging 12% interest just for other people to use their money to purchase real estate. You can flip property, which is the most common and probably one of the most exciting things that a lot of people get into, especially for all of you that love watching HGTV. You can go out and literally be the star of your own flipping show. Or you can look at wholesaling properties where you're the middleman. If you can find some distressed properties or people that want to get rid of their homes, then you can be the guy or gal to sell them to a realtor or investors that maybe don't know how to find property. You could be the source and make a ton of money doing that. So now that you've got the patience, the persistence, and you've got a plan of how you're going to purchase real estate or how you're going to invest in real estate, the next thing that you'd probably want to do is put together a team. So that brings me to point number 4, build a team. Now, depending on your strategy, this list can change, but I'm going to walk you through my strategy because I've been looking at properties to purchase and hold and rent out. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was find a great real estate agent. I've been buying properties in other parts of the country, so I have agents that are there that know the market. They know what I'm looking for. So as they come across deals, they'll send them my way. I'll take a look at them. If they meet my criteria, I'll go ahead and purchase the home and they'll represent me on the transaction. Having a great realtor who understands the market allows you to purchase a home where you don't have to necessarily be there to be able to walk the property. And especially with technology these days, you got a phone, you can do FaceTime, walk through the home. Of course, you can hire an inspector to go ahead and walk through the property and make sure that there's nothing that the naked eye is gonna miss. So now you got your realtor. The next person that you're gonna need to be on your team is a lender. Unless you're paying cash, you can skip this part. But for most people that are purchasing homes, they're gonna need a finance. And financing is so important because that's how you're gonna be able to close on these properties. Whether you go to a hard money lender that lends you their own money and you can close quickly, or you go through a traditional lender like myself here at Loan Depot, we can help you with your financing across the country. Like I said, more often than not, when you're purchasing an investment property, you're looking at putting at least 20 to 25% down. And the reason why you want to have a good lender by your side is because you want to understand their guidelines. You want to know that they got your back and they're going to be able to close that deal on time. Like I've talked about in so many of my other videos, the strategy is so important. And that's why when you work with one lender, they know your file inside and out. They know where you work, they've dealt with you, they understand how to read your tax returns. They have the entire file put together, which makes it so much easier to be able to close and get your financing done. So don't necessarily chase the rate so much like I've talked about in all my videos, because especially in this situation, you want to be able to move fast and you want the confidence to know that your deal is going to get closed on time. Now that I've purchased the home, I've got the financing in place, the next person on my team that I'm going to need is a property manager. Like I said, I bought properties all over the country. I've got a house in Wisconsin, I've got a house in Arkansas, we're looking at stuff in Tennessee and all over in the South. I can't be there to manage it. I don't even want the headache to deal with the tenants and collecting checks and all that stuff. So I've hired a property manager to manage all these homes for me. And the property manager will typically charge 8 to 10% of the gross rent to manage those homes. So for example, let's say your rent is $1,000. All they're gonna charge you is potentially $80 to $100 a month to be able to manage that home. And to me, that is a bargain, because last thing I wanna do is chase down a rent check or find out, hey, Mr. Tenant, why are you a day late on your rent? And just deal with all that nonsense. So in my eyes, I believe in letting them get their money, and at the end of the month, I get a wire to my bank account with all the rent money. And another person you want to add to your team is a good homeowners insurance company. Now, each state, you may need to work with another company depending on where you're looking at, because sometimes certain companies don't offer great policies in a certain area. So if you know you're looking at a certain market, start doing your homework and find a good local agent that can get you a great quote. That's gonna be competitive, because sometimes when you work with some of these larger national companies, you're not gonna get the best service. For example, I've got my car insurance with Progressive, but when I purchased a home in Wisconsin, I ended up using State Farm to cover my property. And one of my houses in Arkansas, I've got a local insurance broker there that covers the properties for me. So depending on where you're buying, depending on how you're buying, you definitely want to build that relationship with whoever you're working with, because that's going to be key, because you're going to need insurance on your home when you close. Another great person to add to your team is going to be a real estate attorney. Now, when it comes to buying investment properties, more often than not, investors will always create some sort of LLC to hold the property in. Now, I'm not going to give you any legal advice here because I'm not an attorney, but you definitely want a good one in your corner, because you want to consider some asset protection. That way, if anything goes awry, you are protected. That is the number one thing, because you never know if a tenant slips and falls in a house and then they want to sue you. So make sure you seek out some legal advice. Make sure you have a good real estate attorney in your corner that can set up some LLCs for you, and just make sure that you have your assets protected. That way you're not exposing yourself to anything that could potentially hurt you in the future. You want to have a good accountant. As you're acquiring these properties, you want to have an accountant who's familiar with real estate investors, because you want to make sure that you can write off as much as you can, have that depreciation like I talked about in the beginning, and make sure that you're protected. That's the number one thing. You've got a lot going on. The more properties you purchase, the more deals you do, the more income that you're potentially making. And you want to make sure that if you can lower your taxable income at the end of the year, that you've got someone that knows the tax code that can protect you and make sure that you're not going to get audited. At number 5, we're talking about the financing. Of course, I'm a lender, and the financing is super important. Like I said, most people are not going to be paying cash for their home. So how do you get your financing? Like I said, most people will go to a conventional lender like us here at Loan Depot. When you're purchasing as an investment property, you're looking at putting at least 20 to 25% down. I always tell all of my clients and my investors, 25% down gets you the best rate. So you can do it with less money down, but you're typically gonna pay a higher interest rate, or you're gonna pay more points just to get the same rate that you can get with 25% down. So if you're an investor out there, make sure that you're talking strategy with your loan officer, because they should be showing you some ways that they can structure your deal to get you into that house. Another way to finance a home is house hacking. So many people talk about that on social media, where what you can do is purchase the home as a primary residence. So you can look at FHA financing, or you're putting as little as 3 to 5% down. But once you move into the house, you've got roommates. So a lot of veterans, where some of their buddies, they don't want to buy, and you know what? Hey, let's all live together. So if one guy bought the property and you've got a 3-bedroom home, you might rent it out to 2 other friends, that could literally probably cover almost all of your mortgage. So as you're purchasing properties, you don't necessarily need a ton of money to be able to purchase. And if you've got a couple of roommates that are covering your mortgage, now you're living rent-free. So now what you can do is start saving up more of your cash to be able to look for another property in the future. But one thing I'll caution you, make sure that if you're purchasing as a primary residence, you do live in the house. Because I have come across some people in the past that have lied to us saying that they're gonna live in the home when it ends up being a rental. That's a big no-no. That's loan fraud, guys, so don't do that. So if you're gonna live in the home, make sure you live in the house, but there's nothing wrong with having roommates that are gonna live in the property and help you cover that mortgage payment. Another way to finance a house is renovation financing. So this is a cool product. If you use FHA financing, it's called a 203K. Now the cool thing about that is that you can actually finance the cost of the repairs into your house up front. Not a lot of people know about this loan product. It's very underutilized, but if you get with a lender who knows what they're doing, and in certain markets, this program is an amazing deal because there's so many times you'll go out and you'll look at a house, especially in today's market with the limited inventory. You might love the bones and the structure of the home, but they've got green carpet or they've got pink paint on the walls that you just hate, but you're tight on your budget and you don't have a lot of money to renovate the house. But how cool is it that there's actually a program out there that you could go and renovate the property and finance the cost of that into your mortgage. So that's another way to consider your home financing to get your investing started. Another way to get financing is hard money or private money. Like I said, most investors will charge you anywhere from 10 to 12%. The interest rate's really high, but they can close quick on the home. So a lot of guys will use this type of financing because when you go through a traditional lender, you're looking at closing in about 30 to 45 days, depending on their experience and how busy they are. On a hard money loan, you could probably close in a week or two, but you're gonna pay that higher interest rate. So typically, if you've got bad credit or you need to close quick, or you're just having a hard time with a traditional lender, you might go the private or hard money route. Another way to get financing is through a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. Another popular way, as I've talked about in other videos, home appreciation has been on a tear lately. So many people have equity in their property and they're just sitting on all that money. What you could do is get a line of credit and be able to use that line of credit to purchase other rental properties. And then you can use the rental income to then pay down the line of credit. And as you pay it down, you can go and use it again and purchase more property. So it's a great way to be able to utilize your home's equity, preserve your capital, and be able to acquire more real estate. You have a life insurance policy that you can borrow off of to then purchase property. I have a policy set up where the money that I put into my policy, I can then draw against while it's still earning interest, and then I can go ahead and use that money, purchase a rental property, and again, the cash flow that I get off of that home then pays back the life insurance policy, and I can draw against the money again. So the more I can turn the money, the more I can keep purchasing investment properties out there. Number 6, you've purchased some properties and now maybe you're ready to sell. So what are some exit strategies that are out there that you can capitalize on? The most common way, if you've got a property and you're ready to sell it, is work with your realtor. Hopefully the same realtor that found you the house can represent you to sell the property. Again, you want to build relationships when you're looking at real estate investing because you may not just buy one property, you may buy dozens of homes over the course of your life. So if you've got a great realtor that did you right up front, got you a great deal, I definitely recommend working with them, let them list your property, they can make some money, and let's go move on and find the next deal. Or if you want to take the deal on yourself, you can do it as a for sale by owner. Or in the business, we call it a FSBO, FSBO, where you are the agent, you can list it, you can deal with the showings, deal with the agents, just to save yourself on the commissions. Another way you can sell your property is through seller financing. So with seller financing, you're essentially the bank. You make the terms. If they come to you and you're willing to sell the property, you can make the terms. They will then pay you, and again, you're the bank. So another way that you can still get some money up front, sell the property, and as you're the lender, they make payments to you, and you start building some passive income off the mortgage that they're paying you. And another exit strategy is a 1031 exchange. So for those of you that own rental property, when you sell your home, you can actually go through a 1031 exchange where you can defer the capital gains on the sale of your property. So if you sold your home, you made $100,000, you can then roll that into another real estate purchase, defer those capital gains, and start growing your real estate portfolio. That's why it's so cool to own real estate, because you can purchase more homes and there's all these tax benefits to owning property. But as you do a 1031 exchange, make sure you get with your accountant, make sure you get with a 1031 exchange company, because they're gonna need to facilitate the transaction. So you may need to add a couple more people to your team in order to make that happen. Knowledge is power, man. Real estate investing, you can never stop learning when it comes to this. So I would definitely recommend reading as many books as you can. Get into the business. Go be a realtor, go be a lender, so that you understand the ins and outs of everything that we look at, what we do, how we do it. That way you can start doing your own deals. You can have a mentor, podcast, whatever resource that you can find online, YouTube. There's so many ways that you can learn about real estate investing. So there's a ton of resources. It's literally up to you to put in the work, put in the effort, and figure out what's gonna be the best niche for you to be able to move forward with your real estate investing career. So that sums up our list.